day 3. We are just moving right along on this project. Today the goal is to get the cylinder heads reassembled, possibly stick them on and get them torqued down tonight. That's the goal. I already have cleaned the valves here. I removed all the valves, I cleaned them, I labeled where they came from. I just took them and took a wire wheel to them and knocked the carbon off of them. They're not 100% perfect, but they're good enough for who it's for. And the only thing I'm going to do yet is I'm going to take some valve lapping compound. I'm just going to put it on the valve and then just reintroduce them to the valve seats, because on the exhaust especially, they're just getting a little bit gritty on there from carbon, dirt, you know, years of driving. And I'm just going to take that valve lapping compound. It's just going to put a nice fresh clean face on both the valve as well as the valve seat. And what that's going to do is just help it seal a little bit more compression in. So, you know, just a little bit more horsepower, maybe. I don't know, maybe 1 more horsepower. But that's what I'm going to do with the valves. I already have transferred 1 valve spring cage to the new valves, and that's off of this valve here. I'm going to do I think all these valves are the same. There's nothing that labels, or valve springs, sorry about that. Yeah, I don't think that these valve springs are different as far as the aftermarket springs are concerned. They're different than the OEM, but I don't think they're different in there, or else they would be labeled as such. There's only 1 part number for them. But I'm just going to show you real quickly how I'm going to transfer these over. And I'm going to leave all the exhaust cages on all these springs here. I'm just going to split them that way. These are going to be my exhaust, and the other side is going to be my intake. This is what I'm talking about here, if you can't see it. So these are going to be my exhaust, and these are going to be my intake. I just labeled where they came from, exhaust, so you get the idea. Alright, now actually I've watched a couple videos on this. It's pretty simple. Just get a pair of snap ring pliers, and you take them and separate the cage from the spring and start to rotate it out, lift it up. Once you get it up so far, you come to the bottom of it, separate it more, and then the spring comes out. Now don't go crazy putting an extreme amount of force on this cage. You don't want it to distort, but just a little bit of pressure is enough. And then you just separate it again, just enough so that the spring starts to slide in. Slide it down as far as you can, and then pop it in the rest of the way. And then boom, just like that, it's in there. Locked in, ready to go. If the spring ever breaks, that cage is going to keep it contained, and your valve won't drop into your cylinder. You might lose power on that cylinder, but your valve's not going to drop in there and destroy your engine. So it's kind of cool that these springs still utilize that factory safety function. But that's what I'm going to be doing. So sit back, enjoy a couple seconds of several hours of work, and I'll see you when I get somewhere that I want to pick up the camera and start talking again. But I'm going to get busy working now. Alrighty, so I am going to show you just on 1 valve what I'm doing. So this is the passenger side cylinder head. So I have everything laid out just as I removed it. So passenger side, front of the engine, exhaust, intake valves, and this being the front of the engine here on the passenger side. Just going to go down through and take a drill. Got some valve grinding compound. Now we're not actually doing a valve job on here. All I'm doing, my goal with this is to just clean up where the valve rests against the valve seat. That's all I'm doing. I'm just putting a little bit of valve lapping compound on there, grinding compound on there. And what that's going to do is knock any little pitting out of the valve itself, and it's going to make it smoother and seal tighter against the actual valve seat. So the valve face, this part, is going to be make a better connection with the actual valve seat. So I'm just going to put the valve through. I'll show you this first. So I'm going to put the valve through, but I'll put some oil on there because I don't want to burn up the valve stems themselves by, you know, having friction in there with no kind of lubrication. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on there, and then on the other side I'm going to have a drill with just a piece of fuel line, fuel hose, and that valve's going to sit inside that fuel hose there, and then I'm just going to turn the drill on. I'm going to spin it at a steady RPM, and then I'm going to apply light pressure to the valve, and that's just going to grind away. Not really grind away, it's just going to take all the imperfections out of that valve face, get rid of the majority of that pitting, and then it'll give me a nice tighter seal on the valves. No, this is not the correct way to do this, but the correct way to do this would to actually go to a machine shop, have them measure everything, and actually do a nice three-way valve job on there, where they actually go in and they match everything perfectly by cutting a nice fresh angle in there and grinding a nice fresh angle on the valve. What that does is that can mess with your lifter heights. So you'd have to go in and actually measure, not your lifter, your push rod lengths. That can sometimes affect that. So this way here isn't going to do that as much, but it is going to give me a nice tighter seal, or so I think. I don't know, maybe in the comments you guys will tell me it's all bogus and I just wasted my time, but oh well. I've done this with great success in the past, and I'm just going to keep doing it because it seems to work. So I got my drill chucked up, got that sitting in the valve, going to spin it. So this isn't one of those things where the faster you go the better. Actually, the slower you go the better, the more it kind of uses that grit to your advantage. So that looks good. Ugh. Again, it's not going to be perfect, and I'm not looking for perfection, but I am looking for it to be a little bit better sealing. Probably do a couple more passes, but that's starting to get rid of that pitting that was in there. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to be cleaning this stuff up. I'm going to do that to all the rest of them, and then I can finally start cleaning these heads out and getting all the grit that I'm entering in there out of there. Alright, so heads are all cleaned up. That's about as good as I'm going to get them. I wish I had a nice hot tank where I could just throw this stuff in. This stuff would have been clean Saturday, and I'd be assembling it and not spending hours cleaning it. Now sure, I could make it a lot cleaner, I could spend a lot more time, but this is going to work. Ultimately, these would be the best if they were CNC ported cylinder heads, gasket matched, blah 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 blah, but these are just the stock units, so they are clean enough. And now I'm just going to start reassembling. So I'm just going to pop the new valve, or well, new. I'm going to pop the valves in, new springs, put them on. And I think that's going to be it for tonight. And then tomorrow night is just going to be throwing the cylinder heads on the car, torquing everything down, cleaning the intake manifold, and then that's pretty much it. I should hopefully be done. I'm right on track. I'm getting everything done that I wanted to, so this is good. Cylinder heads will be done tonight, and I will be throwing them in the car tomorrow. So, yippee! Valves are all in. I also cleaned the spark plugs while I was washing the head. They look like brand new spark plugs again. The valve springs are in, new retainers are on. Everything went fairly easily, trouble-free. And I am ready to put on some exhaust manifolds and slap them into the car. But that is going to have to wait for another night. So I'll turn the camera back on when we're getting busy assembling these bad boys. But everything's looking good so far, and we're just rolling along.